The alternative exchange, though, is what I want us to focus on today. It's been your baby right from the beginning, and you're still in overall charge of it. The performance hasn't kept up to the broader market.
No.
But is that a concern for you, or is that normal, given the cycle where we are in the economic cycle?
I actually think that it is normal, and I think that Altex is much more of a barometer for the economic environment in South Africa, because the Altex type company is the real company on the ground, building its business, that has a tight relationship with what consumers and South African citizens are doing. So I think it is to be expected, that there's a flight to quality, and I think the fact is that today, a lot of the companies on Altex, from a fundamental perspective, notwithstanding that some of them are under pressure,
Sure.
they're still good companies. And they still, there's an opportunity for those companies to grow and develop with the South African economy. So I think as you see the market starting to turn as a whole in South Africa, so I think you'll start to see Altex start to turn as a whole.
I would imagine you guys would keep a tight eye on the performance of the Altex index in itself. Let's just take a look at that. How is it done the year to date?
It's off. There's no question it's off. And remarkably off, certainly when you compare it to the other indices on the market. It's an index. For every buyer, there has to be a seller.
Sure.
So I think there are guys out there that are seeing big value and accumulating stocks listed on Altex.
Yeah. Let's talk about growing Altex and how difficult it must be, particularly given the environment that we've just described.
Yep.
Now, you're just coming back from Toronto, where I would imagine you may have been busy lobbying and trying to get those Canadian miners to come in and list on Altex.
Yes.
How successful were you in Toronto first? And then secondly, can you give us an update on the listings pipeline and what you're seeing in it?
So being in Toronto, we talked to a number of the small junior exploration type companies.
Right.
The pipeline looks good. Whether or not we're able to convert those guys into listing on the JSE, that takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of interaction both with the company and the advisors, and making sure that we create a platform for those companies to list in South Africa. Hopefully we'll see some of the results of the type of initiatives that we've put on the table in the near future.
Yeah.
In terms of Altex and the pipeline, thank God, always looks good. The challenge is to convert those guys from saying, yes, we like the concept of listing, yes, we're in the process of putting ourselves into a position where we can and are able to list, where we're appointing advisors, appointing auditors and attorneys and all the advisors that we need to get to a listing. That's the big challenge. So a lot of the time, when we finish with the company and we say, guys, it's a good idea for your business to at least start the process.
Right.
That's always good. Because the guys are prepared.
Now?
The numbers are irrelevant.
Yeah.
We could be working on one unbelievable one or 10 average ones.
Right.
The numbers for me are necessarily
what's your
irrelevant.
target now for this year, though?
We don't set targets, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because we're not in control of the process. If I was in control of the process and I could say to the company, from the time I talked to the company to the time they listed, it's up to me, then of course I can say, well, I want 10 listings by the end of the year.
I have got one more question for you, Noah. Are you finding it more difficult, particularly given where you've come from, to sell South Africa to foreign investors, given the noise that we've heard around nationalization, particularly coming from the ruling party?
No. I think the South Africa sale is always difficult, but I think emerging markets are becoming the flavor of the day. And I think the challenge for us is to put ourselves at least on top of or as close to the top of that pile of emerging market economies that international investors are prepared to invest in.
But I suppose those answers don't help.
Well, look, those kinds of things just create excuses for those fund managers to put on the table when you go and you talk to them. They've just got one more reason to say, not South Africa, we'll rather go to China.
Sure.
Not South Africa, we'll rather go to Malaysia. Not South Africa, we'll rather go to Brazil. Whereas if we didn't have those noises, we can talk about real investment-related stuff and get them to write out checks.